That is right. It is orange and blue today. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason. We are here to talk about the Denver Broncos. And Mace, we do have a bit of breaking Broncos news that we'll get to right here at the top, including what happened to Jacob Martin. So let's talk about it, because about an hour ago, we didn't have much. And now we got a little bit.
Yeah, we've talked about the depth at edge rusher over the last few weeks off and on, and we've talked about how the room looks a little bit different when you factor in Drew Sanders, even though he's maybe officially going to be listed as an inside linebacker. He's somebody who can project to edge as well. So because of that, we even mentioned, where these guys stack up, what's the path for playing time, et cetera. And we've talked about even guys like Thomas Incoom and Christopher Allen. Christopher Allen, an undrafted free agent last year. Incoom, an undrafted free agent who's going to be reporting to the team this week for rookie minicamp. So in that light, I think moving on from Jacob Martin, who the Broncos acquired right after they traded Bradley Chubb, they needed another body in that room at outside linebacker last year. Frankly, even though the Broncos are going to eat $1 million here of dead cap, I'm not all that surprised by this, because I think the Broncos want to just get looks at different people, younger players than Jacob Martin, maybe with a little higher ceiling than we've seen from Martin, who's mostly a special teamer and provides depth at the edge. I know the cut may have come as a surprise to some out there, but I think if you really kind of parse it down and look at the edge rusher complement and where it is, I don't think it's actually much of a surprise. I don't think there was room at the end for Jacob Martin, given the other players that were in there and that they want to look at.
I'm surprised he was still on the roster earlier today. So, and we've also talked about it, you're Sean Payton's guy. And if you're not Sean Payton's guy, you're not afforded the same time maybe as others.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot of this, I think, over the next few months, quite frankly. Players that people know. In the case of Jacob Martin, he's a local guy. I mean, Colorado, I think it was a Cherokee Trail where he went to school, if I'm not mistaken. And, great story, local kid eventually coming back to be a Denver Bronco. Sean Payton doesn't care about local stories. He cares about fit. He cares about getting some looks at people. And if you are someone brought in as part of the Payton regime, you're going to be at an advantage compared to others. And so we talk about Drew Sanders, we talk about Thomas Incoom. These players probably have an advantage in Payton's eyes as far as their chances of being on the 53 and having a contribution when the season starts, compared to somebody like a Jacob Martin, who probably, he's kind of redundant almost, I'd say, with Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper is a good special teams player who can start for you in a pinch. He's a pretty good run defender. He's had some burst as a pass rusher. He's basically a rotational guy, but if you have Martin or Cooper, you're going to go with a guy who's younger. I don't think you necessarily need two players of that type. And so if you're going to keep one of that type, you're probably going to keep Jonathan Cooper, even though he was here before Sean Payton got here. He's also on a rookie contract going into the third year of his rookie deal, whereas Jacob Martin's a veteran.
And with Cooper, we still haven't yet seen where he'll fully develop. With Martin, well, we already know.
We know.
Guys like that are out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are no shots whatsoever to Jacob Martin, but you know what he is, you know what he can do, and hell, if you really need him, he might be available later on. Jonathan Cooper still has that unknown upside, and honestly, outside of the heart condition, he should have been, what, Mace, like a fourth-round pick? Maybe a third-round pick?
I'd say he might have snuck into the late third. He was actually pretty comparable with Baron Browning coming out, and really what separated the two of them was the heart condition. You got both. Browning has proven that if he can stay healthy, he's a pretty good starter. With Jonathan Cooper, we've seen the bursts, and we've also seen that when he has to step in, he does fine. It's, some guys, when you put them in and you start them, it's like you're just like, oh boy. With all respect to like Justin Strnad, for example, Broncos gave him a starting look back in 2021. He struggled mightily against the run, and that's why he wasn't starting much after that. They were making trades to pick up inside linebackers, and then Strnad just settled in as a special teamer, and now he's very much on the bubble. So teams would attack Strnad when he was out there. You don't see teams attacking Jonathan Cooper and saying, "Oh, well, if he's out there, we're going to go right at him. We're going to expose him." That isn't really the case. He steps in and very much adheres to the next man up ethos of the NFL and does his job pretty well. And I think that's a reason why, if you're kind of making the depth chart here, he would be ahead of somebody like Jacob Martin. And then again, you've got Nick Bonito you're going to take a look at over the next few months. You got Browning and Gregory top the depth chart, and you've got Incoom and Allen as well. I think it was just a classic numbers game with a new coach, with a new scheme for Jacob Martin that worked against him.
Right. Jose, our guy, asked the question in the chat room, like, couldn't they have traded Martin or maybe Benito for someone like Malik Willis? I actually saw a photoshopped Malik Willis in a Broncos uniform as I was scouring the internet for Broncos news. I would say this for Jose, and to toss it back to you, Mace, like, how do we know they didn't? How do we know, at the timing of this is post-draft, this is before the rookie mini camp, which is on Saturday. Like, the timing of this tells me, like, well, maybe they were perhaps throwing stuff out, but you weren't really going to get much back, and you certainly wouldn't get a Malik Willis back, as much as Tennessee's probably going to give up on him. Like, you're not getting Malik Willis for Jacob Martin.
No. I mean, it's a nice thought if you could pull it off, but even though the Titans drafted Will Levis in the second round, they still want to get a look at Malik Willis and see where he goes. And it's basically another arrow in the quiver to see if you can hit the bullseye and find your quarterback if and when you move on from Ryan Tannehill. So that possibility is why you wouldn't make that trade if you're the Titans. And I hate to say this because, look, every player matters, and every player, if you get to the NFL, you've accomplished a heck of a lot. You and I often say that, but you and I both know about the term "just a guy," right?
Jag.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of Jags, and they're on the back ends of rosters. I would argue that plenty of Jags on the back ends of NFL rosters are interchangeable with some of the better players on XFL rosters. And if you changed them out, I don't think you'd notice a difference in the quality of play. But whether a player sticks or not, it's situation, scheme, meshing with coaches. So, and then as they get older, salary. And that's where it comes in with Jacob Martin, that he's not on a rookie contract. Someone like Jonathan Cooper's on a rookie contract as a 7th-round pick. Christopher Allen's on a rookie contract as an undrafted guy. So is Thomas Incoom. And is Jacob Martin markedly better than those players? No, and perhaps I think I can say that with Cooper because Cooper was playing ahead of Jacob Martin. But we may be able to say that with Allen and Incoom if they come out during OTAs and ball out and show they've got some spark to them.
Right, and this just gives them more opportunity to show what they can do. So, as I believe it was Snoop Dogg that said, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I think more than Snoop has said that, but like that's what the Broncos are doing. And it kind of, the Jacob Martin thing ties into the feeling Randy thing, because our dear friend Mike Kliss had tweeted about like, hey, the key to the Broncos pass rush is Randy Gregory. I couldn't help but disagree with that 100%. And I love Kliss, you love Kliss, but like Randy Gregory's just gravy. Like, it's just frosting on the cake. Like, if Randy Gregory gets more than 10 games, I think you should feel lucky. So for me, the key to this pass rush is how do you work Drew Sanders in, the other guys that we've talked about, and also for me, it's 100% Baron Browning. It is all Baron Browning. Does he take that next step? Is he Malik Reed or is he Shaq Barrett? Like, that's what we need to find out with Baron Browning. So Gregory, we already know. And if he plays more than 10 games, you feel lucky. So for me, the key to the Broncos pass rush happens to be number 56, Baron Browning.
And oh, by the way, the athletic talent on Baron Browning says that he's got the capability to be Shaq Barrett and not Malik Reed. All due respect to Malik Reed, but he had his limitations. Baron Browning does not have athletic limitations. He's got a tremendous bend. That's sort of the thing that you notice with him is the bend, the ability to keep his speed as he comes around the edge. That's very unique athletically for the Broncos to get somebody with that particular skill set late in the third round a couple of years back was huge. And then don't forget that first year they put him at inside linebacker because, I don't know. It was
yeah. They gave him the Justin Hollins treatment. Like, I don't know. What are you doing, Vic?
Vic, come on, man.
Yeah.
The weird thing is now that he's developed as a starter, I think that work actually helped make him a more all-around player. Certainly, I believe he's better against the run because he had that, but it did mean that it delayed him blossoming as an edge. We saw sparks last year, but we didn't see it all the way through. The other thing that also has held him back, he had an injury during last season, missed some time. Remember, his first off season as a Bronco was waylaid because of injuries too, and that delayed him being able to get on the field even as an inside backer in the 2021 season. So there have been obstacles put in front of Baron Browning, but this is year 3. This is the moment he needs to step forward. And again, all due respect to Randy Gregory, if he plays more than half the season, I think you're ecstatic. And if he's available, you find a way to plug him in. Just like if somehow KJ Hamler stays healthy all the way through the offseason and training camp, maybe you rethink what your plan was at wide receiver and say, okay, are there ways to get both Hamler and Mims on the field at the same time from time to time? Because nobody's got enough in their secondary to cover those two speed guys at once. If Gregory stays healthy, plays more games than he has in his entire career, I think you're very happy with it. But your plan has to involve accepting that Randy Gregory is going to miss some time. And that's why I think it's a little bit of a bonus. It's gravy, but Baron Browning is going to be the meat and potatoes that gets things done on the edge. And he's the guy that you need to maximize if you're going to get the most out of this group. And you also got to find out what his ceiling is, because if it doesn't work out for him, then next year there's a decent chance you're taking an edge in round 1, pending what else is happening at quarterback.
Yeah, if you're not taking a quarterback, if you're not selling the farm to move up for Caleb Williams, you'll be looking at edge. So, yeah, always in motion is the future. And what I want to see also is these waves.
Thanks, Yoda.
Waves of – I'm almost as old as him. I want to see waves of pass rushers, right? I just want to see – and that could perhaps – I don't think Gregory plays more than 10 games. You gave him half the season, so that's even less. But, like – that's a good number. Where's the over under at? Like I'm taking the under, baby. But like for me, it's where are the waves at, and maybe just maybe Mace. And I don't even want to say this because I don't think it'll happen. But maybe just maybe Randy Gregory can stay healthy for a full season because you have waves and you're not relying on him to always pin his ears back and go after the passer. Like if you have proper guys behind him, quality depth, then you can rotate him, you can keep him fresh, and hopefully keep him healthy.
Of course, the thing is, if you're keeping him fresh and maximizing his snaps, does that mean he is basically a pass rush specialist? Does that mean he's not a base package guy on first down? Are you putting him in when you get second and long, when you get to third down, and saying, all right, we're gonna play you 60% of the snaps in a game? Think of it like Buffalo was using Von Miller before he tore his ACL. Von Miller was having a great season, but they were using him very judiciously. He'd play more in the biggest games. He'd play more in the highest leverage situations, which is why you saw Von go off against the Rams in week 1 when the Rams were the defending champions and they had that Thursday night game. And then there were some games where Vaughn played about half the snaps. But then they play Kansas City and Arrowhead. Heavy dose of Von Miller. He gets a couple of sacks late and basically decides the game for the Buffalo Bills. And I would argue that Buffalo's Super Bowl hopes, in retrospect, died the moment Von Miller got hurt on Thanksgiving Day.
Yep.
So that may be something you think about with Randy Gregory, is establishing a plan where you say he's going to play the most important snaps for a pass rusher. And we're going to watch his snap count and focus on keeping him healthy and accept that he's not going to be an every down player. And if he's not, that means there's a wide open spot for somebody else to step up, whether it is Drew Sanders bouncing to the outside, because I think that's his best, quickest path to playing time, because I don't think he's going to be in position to play very much in year one if he's only an inside backer, unless something happens injury-wise to Josie Jewell or Alex Singleton. He's very much a relief option. But there's a path to substantial playing time right away on the edge as the Broncos cross-train him there. He's going to focus more on the inside first, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some looks on the edge. And then he's got a chance. Jonathan Cooper has a chance. And even those young guys we talked about, Allen and Incoom, if they can flash, they've got a chance to be in that mix too.
I like the saying, whatever works. Yeah. I happen to go to it maybe too often, Mace, but with Randy Gregory, my mind goes like, you're paying him all that money to be a part-time guy. I don't mind that with Von Miller because he's so proven. With Randy Gregory, it's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, if you tell me that works, then I'll say, okay, the price is the price. You know, it's set. You're not renegotiating with Randy Gregory after a year. He's not going to play a full season, but if that works, just using him as a pass rushing specialist, okay, whatever. It's all about results to me, regardless of that price tag being incredibly high.
Yeah, you can't worry about the price at this point. It's the whole sunk cost fallacy, right? Like,
right.
You know, you can't fall victim to that. The price is what you paid. I remember last year when that signing came down, I was a little skeptical. I believe I used the phrase, I worry that George Payton may have lost the plot a little bit when they went after Gregory and targeted him. I get why the athleticism and the traits excite you, but he's never been able to stay healthy. Forget about the substance abuse stuff in his past, because he's been clean for a while now. And,
right.
And, you know, and he's gotten his life together in many ways. But the injuries, he just can't seem to shake. And that was my concern when the Broncos signed him. Unfortunately, it was borne out based on how little the Broncos got from him last year. What little the Broncos got was particularly spectacular. I mean, there's no doubt. Like, you see it when he's out there. I mean, you get why everybody's so, you know, so tempted by him. Why you're a bit transfixed watching him play. The skills are terrific, but
right.
It's the old cliche: best ability is availability, and he hasn't shown that.
And he's not been available for the Denver Broncos. We'll see if they make that work. The chat room's so funny, Mace, because they're like, that's an accounting term. Well done, Mace.
The funny thing is, I didn't hear it first with accounting. I heard it first with baseball.
Of course you did.
Like, yeah, that's it comes up because it comes up a lot, and it seems like every year we're talking about some player who got a huge contract and quickly fell off the cliff. And yet a team keeps pushing that player back into the lineup, even though statistically speaking, they can be a sub-replacement level player. So literally you could grab somebody from the minor leagues, promote them. They're making the league minimum, and they would be a more productive player in terms of wins above replacement, even if they were just 0.0 replacement level, right? So that's where it came from for me. And that's, look, if Russell Wilson can't figure it out this year, we're going to be discussing sunk cost in Russell Wilson too. That's cool. If his 2023 looks even somewhat like his 2022, that's where you have to have the discussion, before more cost is added to the investment on the 5th day of the league year, when if he's on the roster, that's when his 2025 salary becomes guaranteed. That's the $37 million you and I often talked about.
What is the old saying? Don't chase bad money with good money. Or don't keep throwing good money at bad money.
Don't throw good money at bad money. Yeah, that's the phrase.
Yeah, if that's the case, then and I think you hit on something that honestly we could do a whole show on, maybe later, Mace. But Russell Wilson has to not look at all like last year, not at all. I'm not saying he has to throw 50 touchdowns, but you cannot see the reluctance to run you saw at times, especially early. He figured it out later when Jerry Rossberg was like, just go, play. Yeah. And then he played and he was good. So if you can take those last 2 games and duplicate that, I think we're talking with Russell Wilson.
I think so too. But the other thing that comes into play is best ability availability. What if that style of play means he exposes himself more to injury and he gets hurt and misses some time? And then you have to have the discussion of, okay, if he plays this style, he can be effective, but he's going to have an injury risk that only increases as he goes into his mid-30s, which I believe was part of Seattle's concern about doubling down and giving him another contract extension that they were very unwilling to do and helped lead to the trade. They looked at the style that he had, that they felt he had to play to win, looked at the hits he had absorbed over the years. That's the thing. Like, if you go back over most of his time in Seattle, Russell Wilson was among the league leaders in hits taken by a quarterback. And so at what point does that catch up to you and result in a decline in availability and decline in play? We saw it really hit Cam Newton quick. I mean, it started to hit Cam Newton at the end of year 8. With Russell Wilson, it's been a bit later because we're talking about whether he can put it back together here in year 12 of his career. But still, it's something kind of worth analyzing and worth considering, and part of the calculus for the Broncos as they figure things out over the next several months.
Well, and one thing with Russell Wilson that we know, if he's a little bit banged up, he's going to try to play. And that leads to the bad play. Like, okay, if Russ was banged up, you got to miss 3 weeks. Here's Jarrett Stidham. Russ won't do that. Russ will do whatever he can. And what the vitamins? What was his one? The
water,
magic water, right? Was it like
the concussion recovery water?
They
had 2 years ago. I mean,
it was like Space Jam with Michael's secret sauce. Like, that's just water. Like, okay, whatever. But Russ, and that compounds the problem because Russ won't take time off. He'll try to get out there. He won't play as well. And then it's just a perpetual motion.
Well, he's got the Wolverine blood, right? That too.
Okay. There's only one Wolverine. It's Brian Dawkins.
Oh, my gosh. By the way, thanks, Edward, for the kind words that we see in the chat room.
I was trying to figure out a way we could mix Ted Lasso into today's show, and I just couldn't. One, the topic's a little much, and what he said about the Broncos was a little much. But
there's one comment we can focus on here, right? He referred to the Broncos as a garbage-ass team.
Right.
And, of course, Ted Lasso's from Kansas City on the show, so it's pretty obvious he's a Chiefs fan. So there you go. I mean, and I think that's the comment we're focused on here. That Ted Lasso called the Broncos garbage ass team. And you know what? For the last 6 seasons, the Broncos have been a garbage ass team. They haven't had a winning record. Okay.
Yeah, you just got to take that one.
Them's the facts. You got to absorb it. And when you're struggling, you take the hits. You remember the movie Warlock about 30 some odd years ago?
Holy cow, that's a deep pull.
Okay. There's a scene in there, and it was right when the Buccaneers, in the poster behind me, right when they were in the midst of their losing seasons and they're playing a game, and the kid tells the Warlock, "You can't punt on first down. Nobody does that. Not even Tampa Bay." When you have a bunch of losing seasons, you become the pincushion, right?
Right.
That's what's happened to the Broncos. You are the pincushion. You got to accept it. You got to live with it.
I always laugh at the Super Bowl 32 highlights when Eugene Robinson is talking about the Broncos. Is like, they're not even any good. They're the Indianapolis Colts. And then the Colts went on with Peyton Manning after that to, win a Super Bowl and be a perennial Super Bowl favorite or contender. Yeah. So but that's how it happens, right? You're gonna have a period of time, and Eugene Robinson is gonna make fun of you, and then the next year, the joke was on him. Anyway,
look, I used to make the joke about the Chiefs that they hadn't won a Super Bowl since the Beatles were together. I mean, that was easy, right? No, that's gone. I mean, they changed it. It's true until it's not, right? And the Broncos right now are defined by 6 straight losing seasons, and they're going to continue to get hammered by that until it changes. It is just the way. It is the way of things. But here's the deal: it always eventually changes. Whether when you're up, eventually you will come down. If you're down, eventually you will come up. It might take some time. You might have to be very patient, but eventually it will change. So that's
eventually you will beat Pat Mahomes, which I'll skip the Woody topic. Let's just talk dream schedule. We got about 5 minutes left in today's program. Appreciate everyone for watching Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Honda. And the dream schedule for me includes Kansas City in the first month, hopefully around week 4 or 5. But I want to get some games underneath the belt of the Denver Broncos. I want them to see the Sean Payton way. I want them to kind of, get their feet wet or whatever. And I want Kansas City early. I want Kansas City before the bye. I want that litmus test because I think that's a real good sign. If you wait to the end or after the bye, then, who knows what'll happen then. But if you give me something around week 4, week 5, and you face Kansas City that early, you can tell where you're at. Probably not going to win, but you're going to tell how far you are away from competing with the, defending Super Bowl champions.
Do you want the game here or there?
Actually there. It's a better test there.
I want it there too. I want Kansas City on the road out of the way early. Although the funny thing is I've gotten used to being in Kansas City at the holidays. Like I can tell you like how Jack Stack is decorated for Christmas and New Year's and whatever. I can tell you how late those barbecue restaurants stay open on New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve, because I've dined at them on those holidays. But yeah, I want Kansas City road early, home later. Is that the weather?
That's
warning
the weather warning. Yeah. We got extreme weather warning.
Stay safe out there, man. It's wild.
There's tornado warnings and all that kind of stuff. Like the weather was fine when I came in, a little bit of rain, but that was it.
There's some hailstorms moving through too. Like it's
okay.
Like if I'm just reading the text chain here, Rachel Vigil said it hailed for about 15 minutes. Looked like it snowed.
At Roxborough or at?
I am not sure
I'll
where
check
Rachel
my cameras at home.
Said that was.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't know it wasn't doing anything here, but I got the buzz on my phone twice, so I guess.
Yes. And Media Critic, you're right. Yeah, we do like Kansas City barbecue.
Oh, holy cow! Yeah, I'm looking at my cameras at home. Yeah, there's hail. There's hail there. Oh
boy! All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully,
all right.
Hopefully everything's okay. But
so
Shelby's in the garage, so
yeah.
Fine.
But yeah, Kansas City early, and then also a few other things. I would like the Broncos to have a winnable Week 1 game, get some positive momentum. Okay. I think the Jets is a winnable Week 1 game. It's got a lot of storylines. I think that'd be a lot of fun to start out with in Week 1, whether it's the late Sunday afternoon game or Monday night in Week 1. I think that'd be tremendous. I'd love to see the Chiefs early. Selfishly, I would love to see Buffalo early rather than late. You don't really want to go to Buffalo in November or December. And Buffalo has an advantage as the season goes on when they have a Josh Allen who's got one of, if not the strongest arm in the NFL. And one of the reasons why they liked him so much was the velocity and the ability of his passes to cut through the foul conditions of November and December in Western New York, to when the gales of November come, as the late Gordon Lightfoot would have said, referring to another great lake. Of course, he was referring to Lake Superior. Buffalo's on Lake Erie. So I don't want Buffalo late. There are some, the Raiders game can be whatever. I'll say this. If you want to have things set up to where if you go into week 18 and you need a win to get in, even though the Broncos have had trouble against this team in recent years, I believe the Broncos will be better this year. I don't know if the Raiders are going to make the same leap as the Broncos. Thus, give me Raiders at home week 18.
To wrap it up.
That's a game that I would love to see. And thus, if the Broncos are in a win and make the playoffs situation, I think they would have a very winnable game. Of course, it has to be a division game there. And I also want to see the Broncos on Thanksgiving in Detroit. It's been a long time since they played on Turkey Day. Go back to 2009 was the last time they played on Thanksgiving. I think it's about time. It would be great to see that matchup. Another matchup I'd like to see early for weather purposes, give me Chicago in the first 6 weeks of the season. In Chicago, right there on the lakefront on Lake Michigan. That's a game where if you play it November or December, you could be playing in a mess. So I'd love to see that one out of the way early for the Broncos, because one of the cool things about Denver is you usually get some great weather games late in the season most years, because the Colorado climate, you can have some bad days, but you can have some beautiful days. You're not having a beautiful day in Chicago in December. So
no.
Let's get that out of the way. Let's get Buffalo out of the way. Let's have Miami on Christmas Eve. I'm fine with that. Bring that one on. Selfishly, that's a game I want, because if they play Miami on Christmas Eve, I can have, bring the family down to Florida for Christmas Day, and we can stay at my parents' house and all that. And Jose makes a great point. You want Miami late because early season heat. Go back to 2005, week 1, Broncos at Dolphins. Nick Saban's first game as Miami head coach. Broncos were a better team than the Dolphins. They went 13-3. Dolphins went 9-7 that year. Gus Frerotte was the Dolphins quarterback. Okay, Broncos clearly a better team. If they play 10 times, Broncos win 8, maybe 9. But the Broncos lost that game. They lost big time. And a huge reason why they lost that game was they absolutely wilted in the searing heat and humidity of South Florida in early September. So that's a game. That is one game I do not want to see in week 1 is Miami. Let's have that be at least a month into the season, if not 2 months into the season.
That's right. And as far as the Raiders on week 18, Josh McDaniels might not even be the coach by that time. It's Orange and Blue today.
That's
presented
spicy.
by Sean Ponda.
That's like the Danger Witch. It's spicy.
I just wait for the opportunity. Then I'm like Will Peterson. I just wait for those zingers. I just pounce. So there you go. These are the jokes. Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Ponda. I hope everything's okay outside. Anyway, everyone, we appreciate you all. Do those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Tomorrow I'm on assignment. I'll be at a public appearance. King Supers and Belmar, I think. I'll double check. Anyway, appreciate everyone. Mace will be holding it down for me tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. And, of course, we're looking forward to rookie minicamp coming up for the Broncos on Saturday. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at MaceDenver. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and would you please do this? Stay frosty.